Kalin, what is Europe doing to respond to the COVID-19 crisis?
Well, thank you for the question, Louis. And in Europe, we agreed in rapid time a 540 billion package, and we did that in roughly 2 months' time. And the ESM, so my institution, represents around 240 billion of that, and the rest comes from the European Commission and the European Investment Bank. So what we did is we created a new pandemic crisis support line, which is built upon an existing tool that we have, but it's targeted specifically on the current crisis, or the COVID-19 crisis. Now, what does it do? It is accessible to all 19 countries of the Eurozone, and they can access it up to 2% of the GDP for direct and indirect costs that are healthcare or medical related. We can deploy this instrument rapidly, and it allows them to finance themselves very cheaply, and they can do this in order to combat the pandemic crisis.
Excellent. And why is ESM's response in particular of interest to investors?
You can look at it in two ways. The first one is that our response is attractive for investors in the 19 countries of the Eurozone. Why? Because we are giving those countries an additional financing line. So it's like an additional safety net. So if needed, those countries can always tap that. It is the cheap financing, and they can fund themselves against AAA rates, which is us, and we're charging a very minimum fee. So overall, this is good for their investors in those 19 countries because they know that there is a safety line. Now, secondly, it is interesting for the ESM investors. Initially, for the ESM investors, will nothing change because the line has to be asked, and only then we will go to capital markets. But if these lines are requested and then drawn upon, we will go to the capital markets and start issuing bonds. Now, we don't expect the full amount of 240 billion to be used. We expect a fraction of that to be used, but it's still a large safety net that will be available. Now, why is this interesting for investors? We will be probably the ultimate social stability bond because our loans will be only targeted to direct and indirect healthcare costs. So it is for ESG investors, perfect news.